it's very simple. The change comes from the thought. So once we decide that we want to change, then we start accumulating new information.
Hello and welcome to Ravi Rashi Foundation. Soch, Gyan, Karma, Tejas, Astitva are some very beautiful coaching philosophies on which the brand Shravan Shetty emerged. Shravan Shetty is a co-founder at the BODHI, a non-profit collective. He's an accomplished career coach and a thought leader. आपका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है, Shravan.
Thank you so much, Rashi.
Okay, to start with, Shravan, tell us about brand The Bodhi Tree, brand Shravan Shetty, and you as a coach.
Bodhi Tree is an entity which I co-founded very recently in 2021, along with a dear friend and a social sector veteran, Deepti Natrajan, where the focus is to act as a ecosystem catalyst between philanthropists, CSRs, as well as the underprivileged community. When it comes to brand Shravan Shetty, as you know, multiple brands have multiple iterations. So I think the journey for me began in my final year of college, where when I was in my final year of college, I decided quite innocently to create a startup called as Wisdom Associates. And as we have a fascination for acronyms when we are younger, Wisdom was supposed to be workshops, ideas, seminars, and dossiers on management. And I kept it burning on the side for some time. But I also realized at the end of a year that this side hustle needed me to have more experience in people development and understanding the mindset of young people when it comes to education. So I put it, on the shelf for close to a decade. And it's in 2010 that brand Shravan Shetty kind of came together with the experiences that I kind of garnered at two organizations, Grey Caps, which is an education startup and a knowledge services firm, and Accord Consultants, a training and coaching consulting organization. So in 2010, I decided to turn freelancer and I launched Consult Shravan as an entity or Shravan Shetty as a brand persona. And that was the beginning of the journey for me in 2010 as a corporate trainer and as a career coach.
Shravan, tell me about Consult Shravan, which is your own brand and you as a consultant, and what exactly inspired you to begin with it?
Thank you for the question, Rashi. During my corporate training stint, when I was working with Accord Consultants, I worked with a diversity of companies across sectors. And usually after a training program, there would be at least one person who would come up to me or get in touch with me and talk to me about how they're frustrated in the career that they had taken up. Because at the point of time when they had to choose a career, they hadn't really given consent. It was parental choice, societal pressure, peer pressure, and that led them to take up a career. And initially the focus was money. However, after some time, they realized that this was not something that was aligned to their life force or they were passionate about. So this led me to start tinkering and trying to build a model which would integrate with the individual without the focus being on the family or the corporate or the client whom I was working with. So along the journey of life, let me give you another example of a specific person. So there was this person who got in touch with me after close to a decade of trying to make it work in the engineering sector. Unfortunately for this gentleman, he had been to 3 countries, and in all the 3 countries, there was political strife. One of the countries was Yemen. So he had to come back. And when he came back, he found that his oil and gas exploration or these other associated skill sets were of no use in India. And he was in a confusion. So when I listened to him and asked him a lot of questions, I realized that he had done a lot of stuff which was aligned to a leap that he wanted to take into people development. And this led me to understand that a lot of times people inherently have done a lot of things, but one needs to connect the dots, one needs to listen to them. And earlier in the interview, you talked about my coaching philosophy. So I believe that it's possible for us to reforge our identity, switch careers, or do better in our careers when we look at Soch, Gyan, Karma, Tejas, and Astitva. Soch is basically, you will agree with me that whether it's Buddha or any great individual, or somebody like Isaac Newton, who was the first person after crores and millions of people saw apples falling, he said, why is the apple falling, right? Or Buddha said, I want to change for the better, and why are so many people suffering? So similarly, I realized that even though it's very simple, that change comes from the thought. So once we decide that we want to change, then we start accumulating new information. So now I'm really inspired by the podcast that you're running, right? So there's a spark saying maybe I should run and start a podcast on my own. So that should be followed up with action, right? So when we say Soch Karma, and that action means that I need to watch all your podcasts to get a better idea, right? On how you run the podcast, what are the different people you've selected, and then also listen to other podcasts. So this action will lead me to understanding that from Soch Gyan, which is the knowledge of podcast, comes the actual action of starting a podcast, right? So when I start the podcast, I'll reach out to you and say, hey, Rashi, can you mentor me? I might be a career coach, but you are somebody who has got the experience of doing so many podcasts. So are you running a workshop, where, individuals like me can sign up and learn how to start a podcast, right? How to get it together? What's the technology, right? So from Soch, Gyan, Karma, the potential within gets liberated as we continue to, work on it. So then probably in 3 months after taking, coaching from you, I might launch my own podcast. So the circle is that suddenly there's a change. Shravan Shetty is not just a career coach. Now he's also a podcaster, right? But there is my individual effort, but there's also mentoring that's required. So my coaching philosophy also, with respect to this particular client, involved me giving him insights on how he should go about it. But I also put this client in touch with other people who are experts. And he actually, very successfully managed to transition into running his own organizational transformation firm in Coimbatore. And I recently connected with him after 7-8 years of not being in touch. It was really very heartening to see that how he had progressed in his career and is doing so well. Of course, 80% or 90% of the credit goes to him for putting in that effort. So I always tell clients, I'm always helping you help yourself. It's not me, it's you who's helping yourself.
So I understand what you're trying to say. Your philosophies are based on, what I understand, are based on Gita, and it is the selflessness that is actually coming out in your approach to business. But if we talk about hardcore business, even the business pillar where CSR and social initiatives are based, you think this is successful? I personally want to know this.
That's a very interesting, thought-provoking question, Rashi. Yes, to a certain extent, sometimes our approach seems simplistic, but in today's time and age, it's important for us to also embrace technology. So as much as it's important to look at self-actualization, I think that the challenge with CSR and institutional effort is always to standardize and scale. Whereas the reality in today's age, as it has ever been, that individual transformation needs a personalized effort. So, for example, let's take a group of underprivileged children in, let's say, in a slum in Bangalore, or a set of gifted, high potential students studying in a international school in Delhi, for example. Now, in the larger helicopter view, it looks like the children in an international school are really well off, but the educators or the educationists don't really know how to handle a gifted child in a class of 30, where the other 29 are not in par. So there is required a hybrid approach to use technology, as well as to see how you can help the individual child stay socially connected, but also progress as per his potential, right? Whereas back even in the slums in Bangalore, we might decide to say that, okay, let's create like a program for career guidance or skill development, and then scale it across 30 different states, right? Different locations. The challenge again is that we forget that the individual journey is very different. Even of these underprivileged children, somebody in Orissa who's from a tribal community, somebody who's migrated, from rural Karnataka to Bangalore. So it is important for us to have hybrid models in place for career development, and not have a one size fits all approach, from purely from a business perspective also. And there are a lot of use cases that one could refer to. Just to give a quick example, there is an organization which has created a new course which is on UX and UI, where they intake students from underprivileged backgrounds, low income backgrounds. They do the usual income gap check. And then what they do is that they get them to take like a quantitative test to see if they have the basic aptitude to get into UX UI. And this is 10th standard children from government schools and underprivileged backgrounds. The reason why they also do this test is to see where the child is in his or her journey in terms of quantitative skills, numerical ability. And if they don't clear it, they get multiple attempts. So it's not like 6 months, or they can keep taking it week after week. And there's a culture fit test to see if they're willing to work hard for it. Now, after that, the girls and boys are put in separate residential campuses, and they taught UX, UI, and Python coding for close to a year's time. And at the end of it, they are placed in companies where the role is equivalent to that of an entry-level engineer getting into UX, UI. And in that 1 year, they just taught communication skills on the side every day, right? And we find that over the past 4 or 5 years, this organization has managed to raise the lifestyle or income of these young people from beginning at the early batches. We're placing students at 2.4 lakhs. Now they're earning 5-6 lakhs, equivalent to engineers. Now, if we look at the comparison and contrast, it's important to build hybrid models, just a use case for reference.
So what I understand that he's trying to say that they are actually striking a balance between philosophies, technology, growth, and prosperity. This is wonderful. So you at Consult Shravan, what are the different kind of services apart from coaching you're offering? What kind of workshops are you offering? Let's hear.
Great question, Rashi. And we say necessity is the mother of invention. So along this past decade, there have been several courses which I have designed, workshops I have designed, specifically keeping in mind the needs that come up. So one of the areas that I have looked at, for example, is train the trainer programs, not just in terms of the corporate world, in terms of helping HR managers build career pathways. So a recent study close to 5 years ago by Wipro in its organization revealed that a lot of employees were leaving IT companies because they weren't really clear about what are the future career pathways for them. And these are people with mid-level progression, right? So the same challenge also is at several institutions where they call individuals like me to give, like a general lecture on career progression, saying, what can you do after your BTech in mechanical engineering? Or what can you do after a liberal arts undergraduate program? But after that 1 hour program, there is no support system in most institutions because there is no concept like a career center like it's in the US and other countries. So I have also curated a service where I work with, whether it's a school, college, or institution, to try and map what is the future goals of the organization, and then help them draft like a career pathway progression on what could be roles possibly opening up for individuals within the organization based on the skill set, and also help organizations state what is it that individuals can do in terms of either cross-skilling, upskilling, reskilling to move into different roles. One of the organizations that I worked with as a consultant, we also found that a high potential individual, there was this woman who had 10 years of experience, and she was in the field of HR, and she actually reskilled herself because she felt that she had the potential to get into sales, and she rose to become like a sales VP because the organization allowed her to transit. Now, this would have been a loss to the organization if they had said, no, you're a HR person and you're bucketed as such, and you would stay there. Similarly, with schools and colleges, I have created customized programs. Apart from these, I have programs to assist young students who are looking to go overseas, help them with their SOPs. These are some programs that I have in place. I've also incrementally now started working specifically on streams where I work with engineering colleges with separately designed programs, as well as liberal arts. I also work with School of Applied Sciences. So my services include one-on-one coaching, as I've already stated before, as well as programs which are built on training need identification. I also have some standard workshops which I have rolled out, and I'm looking to roll out a couple of interesting programs this year. One is I have been doing work in bits and pieces in the social sector on career guidance for different NGOs. So now I have decided to launch a campaign called Make India Career Aware. I have rolled out a few programs for organizations as diverse in Darjeeling, as well as organizations in Delhi, Karnataka, and other states. So that's something new.
This is wonderful, Shravan. Shravan, see, we interview a lot of coaches, a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of mentors, trainers on daily basis. Tell me one different, USP, feature, your quality, your service, which makes you stand out from so many of them out there.
Thank you for the question, Rashi. I think the USP would be to map the individual's journey and also keep recommending on a consistent basis opportunities, ideas, and suggestions for the individual to enhance and widen their career portfolio. And I say career portfolio specifically because in the recent news, I'm sure all of us have heard about how in the past 1 week to 10 days, giants like Microsoft, Google have laid off tens of thousands of people across the world. Now, this is also being impacted by new technologies like ChatGPT and others, AI-driven technologies, which are going to make a lot of skills redundant. Earlier, when you entered an organization like Google or Microsoft, you found that your life is set. But today, we don't know every 1 or 3 years you need to keep building your skill sets, widening your skill sets. So probably in another 20 years, as per Future of Work reports, they indicate that probably only 30% of the population, working population, will be in permanent roles. The rest of us will have to, sift between different skill sets and have different professions at the same time. Maybe podcaster by night, a musician, on weekends, a baker, setting out assortment of delicacies on order to order basis. So the future is vibrant, but it's giving you the opportunity to be different people as against just being a woodcutter and not having any other skill sets. So now you can be a sculptor as well. So my USP is that I help individuals identify skills and interests which they can develop into income generating professions as well.
And I think we've interviewed so many people out there, especially coaches and trainers. And I think what Shravan is telling us is totally wonderful. So he can actually train you with different kind of skills and guide you on this. This is what he's trying to say. And this is very, very, very need of the hour, honestly. Okay, Shravan, what's in for future?
So future workshop offerings also include integration of different areas. So generally, when you look at school and college students, the focus is on academics, co-curricular activities, extracurricular skills, social skills. But bringing it all together is a challenge which still is there in the ecosystem. So we have been, reaching out to different organizations and individuals, telling them that let's see whether you are at the school level or college level, we can offer you a premium service based on your interests and skills and future goals and aspirations. The workshop will have 3 phases. We first identify, do like a need analysis, look at a future goal setting exercise. And then based on the interest, I will handle probably 30% of these intersections, which is either group or individual coaching sessions. And then we will connect the individual to specialists in those specific fields that the person wants to progress into. I think we are at a point of time where coaches can no longer say, I will do everything for you, because that is not being very truthful. We all have individual strength areas as well as areas where we can collaborate with others. And my coaching focus has been to be collaborative, and now specifically with technology impacting all that we do, with probably more than 3,500 career pathways. Even if you want to switch careers after 10 years of working in the IT sector, it's important to work with specialists, people who are older than you, younger than you. So I also work with specialists who are much younger than me. So I'm being reverse mentored on certain areas of technology and design thinking as well. So this is something new that that's coming up.
Wonderful. And I love this, that you need to work with different sectors and different people all the time to grow yourself, especially. This is wonderful, Shravan. Shravan, There are people out there who are getting into entrepreneurship, especially after COVID. A lot of people have startups, started with their own ventures. So any short advice for people who are following your footsteps or coming into entrepreneurship?
Yes, entrepreneurship is the lifeblood of economy. And today, as companies let go of people, we realize that the only way to bounce back for the human race is for more and more people to become entrepreneurs. I think the first piece of advice would be for entrepreneurs to start thinking of being entrepreneurs when they're on the job itself, wherever they're working. Intrapreneurship is a skill that one needs to develop, because if you're going to be very frugal when you're working for somebody else, then you know how to optimize resources. So once you optimize resources, the next step that comes into play for any intrapreneur who's leaving a job to become an entrepreneur is to do a pre-mortem exercise. Now, pre-mortem is a tool that the Stoics, Ryan Holiday, best-selling author, constantly talks about it, where we look at what are all the things that could go wrong and prepare for it, list it out, map it out, document it, make it like a really thick folder, a dossier, and then start looking at what could be solutions that you could come up with it. A lot of times, the euphoria of entrepreneurship is to believe that how you watch it in movies, you're going to get in and you're God's gift for the entrepreneur's world and things are going to happen magically. So nobody foresees setbacks, and when you are going through the setback, you realize that you should have anticipated that. So I think, on a closing note on advice, I would say anticipate, adapt to situations as an entrepreneur, and then you'll be able to accelerate. And on Indian roads, as we know, one can never take a BMW and hit top speed. You have to decide on which road to go really slow, like a bullock cart with potholes and infrastructure issues. And also you have highways where you can speed up. So one needs to adapt to accelerate.
Yeah, beautifully explained. And this is a wonderful piece of advice you've given. Okay, Shravan, tell us about your recognitions, awards, and also your social initiatives. I think the entire venture of yours, the vibe that I get from even Consult Shravan is you're too much into social. You're more like a social entrepreneur rather than a very shrewd, entrepreneur. So let's hear.
Thank you, Rashi, for the question. I think amongst the recent people whom I've interviewed with, you've been the most direct and you have, articulated it, quite well. Yes, my leaning is on the social side, and I think it also comes from my upbringing. My father was a dean of a dental college, and he, at their dental college, they used to go and do these rural health camps for people who can't afford dental treatment. And more recently, probably around 7, 8 years ago, as I was, going about my coaching, I found that there were individuals who would reach out to me, and the moment I would state that this is my coaching fee per hour, they would say, "Hey, we can't afford this. I just lost a job. My wife is carrying. I have loans." So, and it just struck me. I would feel very uncomfortable, after that conversation. And I said, I'm sorry, this is how it works. I can't do, anything more for you if you can't pay for me, right?" And I wouldn't be able to say it. Sometimes I would be non-responsive. Then I came across an individual who said, "Why don't you have a sliding pay scale?" Right? So as you are going about your coaching or training programs, if somebody is really in requisite of that support, either offer it as pro bono if a person can't pay anything, or bring it down and say that, okay, if you're charging 1,000 rupees per hour, say that, okay, I have 3 slots this month which are 500 rupees, and if you want to take it up, you can. So this kind of evolved into an outlook where I started leaning towards uh, being a social entrepreneur as well, because the gap between the rich and the poor is increasing on a daily basis, right? So my focus is to ensure that I am maintaining a balance between taking care of myself and my family as well as the community. So I probably have 15 different pricing models for different segments, and I'm always looking to see how I can innovate that and make it work.
So this is wonderful. You spoke about the social side of your entrepreneurship and your approach. Let's hear about your awards and recognitions now.
I would like to say that, the journey of life has been rewarding in many ways. And I see accolades and rewards in from different lenses. Some of the awards are, straight cut awards. I've got the Ohio University Leadership Award for my leadership initiatives when I was the president of class of 2006, when I was doing my MBA. Post that, Accord Consulting gave me a Make It Happen award for my overall contribution in the space of training and development across clients that we worked with. At Grey Caps, I've received specific awards for new initiatives for helping to bring out a leadership handbook featuring 52 leaders from different walks of life. More recently, People Hum, a platform, looked at mapping 100 top HR leaders across the world. And a couple of years ago, I was one of the few people who was interviewed from India, from a career coaching profession. And it was really heartening for me because my role model as a coach is Marshall Goldsmith. And to be in the same platform, to be interviewed for your expertise as somebody as huge as Marshall Goldsmith, was an award by itself. Specifically this year, when I look at it, I've been shortlisted for the Glanter X awards in terms of future leaders for 2023, and I'm yet to know, where that will go. But I've been told that I'm in the top 100. So that's something which I would like to share.
I think the biggest gift he's giving us is that he's very humble. Coaching, consulting, training, power talks are some strong gifts by Shravan at Consult Shravan. His details are available in the feed and on the video. Get in touch with him. I think he's a great mentor, and we all can at least speak to him and understand what are the new workshops that are coming up. Shravan, आपका बहुत बहुत thanks. क्या bye.
Thank you, Rashi, for having me on your show. I think it's a remarkable show. I think everybody should watch it. Specifically, the message that calls out to empathize, energize, empower. In specifically in this time, as we see that there are climate control issues, the world is getting polarized. I think your podcast and what you're trying to do is a breath of fresh air, which is rejuvenating all of us. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you for your kind words. Very few people do that to us on our show, and I think this is wonderful. Thank you so much.